Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kemal Onor. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you one of the most important writing tips you can possibly receive. So if you like this type of content, make sure to give it a good thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. That way you never miss a video. And with that said, let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
So the biggest piece of advice that I could give any beginning writer, anyone starting on their writing journey, is to stop overthinking your fiction. Stop overthinking your writing. So many beginning writers will go, but there's rules and I have to learn all the rules and I have to do this, and if I don't do it this way and if I do it this way it's going to be wrong, and so the number one thing that you have to do when you're starting out writing is stop overthinking your writing. Stop worrying about, am I starting the story the correct way? Stop worrying about, is it okay to have a talking dog in my story? Because yes, it's okay to have all those things, and especially when you are starting out trying to find your voice, just try everything. Write anything and everything that comes to your mind. Do as much, because you want to do as much writing as you possibly can, because through writing you're going to learn so much more about the craft of writing. You're going to be one of those people who actually writes, and people who actually write know the struggle that it takes to be a writer. They know how difficult it is to actually sit down and write. Finding the time to write is not something that is just gifted to you. You have to carve out time within a busy schedule, within our hectic days. We have to find time to come and sit down, and we have to motivate ourselves to sit down and write. So many beginning writers will get so mangled up in their thinking that it will prevent them from actually writing. And if you're overthinking your writing and it's getting to the point where you can't even start because you're like, I have to have everything plotted, I have to have everything in neat little graphs, I have to have the characters fully fleshed out before I even start, you're overthinking it. And so when you're overthinking your ideas, when you're overthinking and trying to complicate your stories, when you're trying to figure out, is my idea creative enough? Is my concept creative enough? Is my writing good enough? These are all great questions to ask, but if it is preventing you from writing, this is where it becomes an issue. So you need to do your best to stop overcomplicating your writing. Stop worrying about, is it perfect, because your early writing is not going to be perfect. But you're going to learn so much from writing, just from the act of writing bad stories, from the act of writing bad fiction. You're going to learn what works. You're going to start to develop your voice. And and so much of my channel is all about helping you discover your voice, helping give you guidelines to help figure out what's going to work writing, and ways to speed up your own journey, ways to speed up your own ability of discovering your own voice. Now, none of this is easy. I'm never going to lie to you and say it's so easy to be a writer. You just have to read a lot and write a lot, and that's all there is to it. You have to do it consistently. You have to be critical, and even then, there will be times when you will struggle to write. There will be days and weeks and months when you find that you don't have the inspiration, but you still have to pick yourself up and force yourself to sit down in that chair. You have to bring yourself to write. You have to make it habitual. You have to write as much as you possibly can. So if you're overthinking your writing, this is going to prevent you from actually writing. So you need to stop overthinking your writing. The other thing that you need to do is you need to stop overcomplicating your ideas. Now, I mentioned this in one of my other videos, in which I talked about why you need to stop world building, because again, World building is not writing a story. It's the setting, it's the backdrop, as I mentioned in that video. So just like in world building, it's the same thing when you're constantly trying to overcomplicate your story, or even overcomplicate, say, your characters. So I know that in a lot of my early writing, a lot of my early bad writing that I was doing, even in undergrad, I would constantly come up with these very strange character names because I felt it wasn't good enough to just have a character named Steve, or have a character named David, or have a character named Jim or Bob, or have common sounding names, because this wasn't creative enough. And so I felt that I had to have very creative names. My characters had to have names like Mr. Gabberdy Dabba, or whatever it was. It had to be something that would stand out. It had to be something thought-provoking. It had to be something that meant something. It had to relate to the theme of the story. And these are all examples of how in my own writing journey, how I often overcomplicated a lot of my early writing with all this unnecessary clutter. Because the best thing you can do is write a clean and simple story. And you do this by taking ordinary characters, by taking ordinary people, and putting them into unordinary situations. I think if you're writing a lot of fantasy fiction, if you're writing science fiction, if you're writing in a particular genre where you're constantly putting characters in strange worlds, or you're putting characters in these absurd situations where there's something very strange happening, what you need to do is you need to try and do this just for practice, and see how it goes, and let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Write a story that takes place in an ordinary setting. Write a story that takes place in an ordinary, everyday sort of house in upstate New York, or wherever you might want to set it, but set it somewhere ordinary. Set it somewhere that you are familiar with. Tell a story about a day in your life, and then have something fantastic happen to create some sort of conflict within your story. And so by doing this, by not overcomplicating your fiction, by not overcomplicating your writing, by feeling the need to add on all these excess layers and clutter up your writing with strange sounding character names, and to clutter up your writing with strange settings, and setting your story in a volcano. Try writing a story instead that's just set in a room, or that's set at a train station, or set at a bus stop. Try and write a story using ordinary people, and have them face some sort of conflict. Have them have ordinary people face some sort of challenge. And this is going to help you create more fiction. It's going to help you write more, because you don't need to overcomplicate your writing. You don't need to be overthinking your writing. A great story can be told with ordinary people facing ordinary problems. It could be a person going for a walk, and maybe there's something about the way that they pass someone, or they get caught in a storm, and they think that they see a ghost of someone that they once knew, and it's just an ordinary person going on a walk, going on something very mundane, something very ordinary, and then you add on a deeper layer to it. And this is how you can create many stories. So don't overcomplicate your writing. Try and write using ordinary characters, and with that, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking all the way through the video. I slammed the door coming in from the blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.